banned is a power word in fighting games. It is actually so strong that it's pretty rare for something to be straight up banned in competitive play for the vast majority of fighting games. While a common fighting game mantra is just learn, just adapt, figure out the matchup, every now and then, something crazy enough comes around that it actually warrants a ban. So today I want to specifically look at characters that have been banned from competitive play, is what I would say. So this is actually a pretty commonly discussed topic in fighting game YouTube. Obviously, characters getting banned is a huge deal for any game, but to be honest, there's an angle that basically no video really talks about. It's actually what I want to talk about today. So I want to talk about the different ways that characters can be banned in fighting games. Because if you think about it, banning something means you can't use something, but there's different levels to this game. So we're going to be looking at console exclusive characters, glitched characters, boss characters or like upgraded characters, soft ban characters, temporarily banned characters, which you have to get to that part to actually hear the difference between soft ban and temporary ban, and then last but not least, hard ban characters. To begin, we look at the console exclusive character. As the name suggests, these are characters that are banned because they're just not available on every single platform that the game is available on. Now, if you want to be like, wow, that sounds really weird, let me explain. Once upon a time, when online really sucked, usually the arcade version of the game will come out first. To incentivize people to buy the console version of the game, they would usually add some extra modes and some exclusive characters to the console version of the game. So this did a couple of things. If you're a dedicated arcade player, not only would getting the console version give you unlimited practice time, which is of course very valuable compared to spending anywhere between 50 cents to $1 or $1.50 per game, assuming you're losing, of course, but you could also have new content in the forms of new characters, new modes, and more. And if you've never played the game before, a console exclusive character might incentivize you to actually buy the game. By far the most well-known, most discussed one would be Soul Calibur 2 console exclusive characters, of which there were 4. Soul Calibur 2 had Link on GameCube, Heihachi Tekken, and Spawn on Xbox, along with a brand new character, Necrid, on all consoles. I actually remember getting Soul Calibur 2 as a kid on GameCube, of course, right? I'm a Nintendo kid, and just being like, okay, Link is sick, but who is this green guy? And like, why this dude is mad random, but they're like advertising him. And the funny thing is that apparently the characters are not like really crazy or anything. Truly, in the case of a console exclusive character, the character being really good is not the issue. In fact, in the Soul Calibur 2 example, if you look up a tier list real quick, basically all these characters are not rated really highly. But that's the common example people use, but it's a famous one, right? A lesser known one would be Oboro Bishamon from Vampire Savior. This character is an alternate version of the selectable Bishamon, but he's mastered his cursed armor. And he's pretty much available exclusively on console, but there are actually a lot of versions of this game. Vampire Savior, which is known as like Darkstalkers 3 in North America, has many versions between like PSP and PS2 and all these versions. But the thing is, the main way you play this game in tournaments is definitely the arcade version. There are some compromises, like for example, I played the game on Xbox 360 to practice when it came out in a special collector's edition. With Fightcade available and good rollback, now basically everyone plays on Fightcade or they play tournaments in person. So the arcade version is basically the exclusive way that competitive players play the game, which means Oboro Bishamon is also banned because you just can't get him. And just like the Soul Calibur 2 characters, he's not that great. Like, apparently normal Bishamon is better than Oboro Bishamon, so there you go. Now, interestingly enough, Darkstalkers 3, Vampire Savior, I'm just gonna say VSAP, bro. The Vampire Savior does have another banned character. Its name is Shadow, and we're not talking about the Hedgehog. Shadow is available in the arcade version, but he takes the form of the previously defeated character. So because of this, he naturally breaks the rules of picking characters in fighting games when you're playing like a 2 out of 3 set, which is the winner can't switch characters. So because of this reason, he's banned as well. So with this quick overview, you might agree with me that like console exclusive characters are definitely the least egregious banned characters. It's usually just reasons of you can't get them, or they're not an arcade, or just like some silly rule makes it so that you shouldn't play the character. So next we have to take a look at glitched characters. These characters aren't even available via a secret code. Another way you can look at it is you could put on your gamer gloves and do some weird thing and then you can get access to the character. and specifically a character that you're not supposed to be able to play. Secret characters are like secrets, right? Easter eggs, something to just reward you for playing a lot or doing some type of challenge, but these characters are a little different. So these are actually pretty uncommon in this list, and I mean, to be fair, banned characters are also uncommon. But back in my hometown of good old Melty Blood X again, you could unlock a couple of extra characters on a PS2 version. One of them was a boss character, Archetype Earth, who had a special version. If you know that game, that every character has 3 grooves, crescent, half, and full moons. You know, Melty Blood's about vampires after all. So Archetype Earth has a special one called Eclipse Moon. But if you picked Archetype Earth through random select, you could actually pick Crescent Moon Archetype Earth on PS2, which was not even finished. So at the time, a lot of us thought that, maybe they wanted to make Archetype Earth an actual character, but it just didn't finish in time, which is pretty interesting because in the current version, Actress Again current code, she is a selectable character, a full and complete selectable character, a top tier one as well, which Stace love. But this glitched version of her in the PS2 version, there was nothing too crazy about her. It's just like you can't select her a normal way and she's literally not done. So for that reason, she was immediately banned. The fun thing about Crescent Moon Archetype Earth in the PS2 version is that we would definitely try to pick her during button checks and stuff just to be silly. By the way, if you have any other examples of a character like this, definitely let me know. I did a decent amount of research to try to find other examples of this, and I wrote one in my notes, but when I looked for it again, I couldn't find info on it. So if you have any examples, definitely feel free to share them in the comment sections below. I'm always super interested in this type of stuff, honestly. But with that, let's move on to the next one. So this one is definitely more common than glitched characters, but unfortunately, I feel like they've just stopped doing this in fighting games, which I think is actually kind of sad. And this is the boss or upgraded character. So if you've been on fighting game YouTube for a while, or if you're just like a casual enjoyer of the genre, you've probably watched Maximilian Dood's Boss Rage series. And this is exactly the type of character we're talking about. Fighting game bosses were made to be overpowered. They're designed to literally take money from you. If you think about it, if you're playing the game in arcade, it could cost anywhere between like 50 cents and maybe 150 cents. Technically $1.50 per play, as opposed to buying a console game where you're paying, I want to say at the time, like 50 to 60 bucks, which now is probably like 90 to 100 bucks, but we won't talk about that. So from an arcade perspective, it's getting you off the machine so you can play again against this challenge. From the console perspective, there's this really hard challenge for you to overcome. So whenever you could actually get access to these characters, it's no surprise that they are actually pretty crazy and overtuned. But again, some boss characters in fighting games are talked about all the time. There's characters like Third Strike Gil, who can resurrect himself, or Accent Core Justice, who's super fast, 2 air dashes, among a ton more shenanigans. But instead, I want to spend time talking about the upgraded characters. So if we go back and look at Third Strike Gil and Justice, these are not characters you can like pick, really, especially in arcades. Where upgraded characters, these are different versions of characters you already have. This is somewhat common in anime fighters. So sometimes there'll be either unlockable versions or secret versions, or they'll have a mode dedicated to this. So BlazBlue, for example, has the unlimited characters. Some of them are kind of tame, which is funny considering they're upgraded. So you have like Unlimited Ragna, for example. He has Blood Cane permanently. So back in the day, if you're playing BlazBlue CF now, you know this as his overdrive, but this used to be just a super you could do. The Unlimited Ragna just has Blood Cane forever. So this means he just does more damage. I think it changes his frame advantage. He heals more health. And he also bombos you. Bombos. But besides that, it's nothing that crazy. Other characters are just kind of weird, right? So my longtime first main in BlazBlue was Lychee, and I can't really describe Unlimited Lychee to you. She's really weird. Like, she has like very weird properties on her moves and stuff. She's not really like moved into like simply an upgraded version of herself. She feels more like a new character. And then you have characters like Unlimited Valkenheim, who his special ability now is to backdash out of hit stun. That is correct. You cannot combo him anymore. There is a restriction around it, but the point is he could backdash out of hit stun. He could backdash out of hit stun. I think that is really crazy. He can backdash out of hit stun. I just want to make sure you understand what Valkenheim can do, my boy. Actually, Guilty Gear XX has a ton of these as well. characters have multiple forms, almost on some Dragon Ball Z shit. So you have the normal characters, which you see all the time, selectable immediately. Then you have the EX characters. So these are like modified versions of the characters, and people used to say that like the EX version of the characters were like prototypes for like plus R or something. I used to hear say about that like all the time. So, and then you have shadow characters. So this version of the character has infinite meter. So in a game about being broken with meter, this is pretty broken. And then finally, gold characters, which to me are the boss version of the characters. So since the standard, of course, is the normal characters, the other three, especially shadow and gold characters, are definitely banned. Anyways, as we continue to go even further beyond, we move to soft ban characters. And the first question we must ask is, what is soft banning and why is it done? So a soft ban to me implies one of two things. So one would be the community just kind of agrees to not pick it, even though you can, but everyone would just give you the stink eye. The classic example of this is Old Sagat in Super Street Fighter 2. This is a story from, honestly, one of the first stories I heard in fighting games when I started playing Melty Blood. Old Sagat is banned in Japan. So he's banned everywhere. And of course, at that time, Japan was like the standard you would follow because everyone was getting different versions. People would get different versions at different time. So you would try to emulate the arcade version to the best of your ability. And the thing is, he's not even the best character. It's more that he invalidates so many other characters with not that much effort. When we're saying effort too, we're talking about spamming fireballs at DPing when they gel. A really simple game plan that just really screws up a lot of characters in the game. And then number two is it could imply a regional ban. As in Connecticut, it's banned, but in New York, it's okay. Now you might be like, okay, you said Old Sagat was banned in Japan, so doesn't this fit as well? If you did say that, good. That means you're still with me. So yes, but also kind of. The big thing for a regional ban is that you're straight up not allowed to play that character, use that tactic, etc., as opposed to the silent homie agreement that the previous time was. There are a few characters I know that have gotten regional bans over my years of playing various fighting games. It's actually somewhat common in Smash. Some of you might remember this thing. This is a map for Smash Ultimate where a character named Steve, not me, by the way, the final DLC of Smash Ultimate, is allowed to be played at in tournaments. There's also discussions in Smash 4 over banning Bayonetta, which is a character I really wanted to play, so I'm really sad that I missed out on top tier Bayonetta. And even further back, if you want to talk about Brawl, which is a game I actually played competitively, Meta Knight, which usually tops off most broken character in Smash ever lists, people actually debated on whether or not he should be banned because certain regions used him a lot more than other regions. Next, we want to talk about the time limit bans. So this is essentially when a character is up for discussion for a hard ban, and the community actually follows through on it while waiting for a patch to balance character. As you can guess, this is definitely a feature of modern fighting games, as in the past, pre-patches, you basically had to wait for a new arcade version, which means waiting for a new console version if this day happened to you. And honestly, I do think this is one of the best things about patches when this type of thing happens. While Bayonetta can kind of saunter into this group as well, the most well-known one would probably be Labcoat 21 from Dragon Ball FighterZ. I have seen many a thumbnail with Android 21 in a lab coat with laser eyes saying the most banned broken character Dragon Ball FighterZ. And funny enough, I actually do take credit for this character being added to Dragon Ball FighterZ, so if you hate her, you could thank me. And if you really want to know why I take credit, you should ask me sometime. But the case of this character is actually pretty interesting, and the reason why people wanted her banned was her overrepresentation in tournaments because of how high her character power was. Dragon Ball FighterZ was no stranger to high character DLCs. Actually, people expected after a while for one of the DLC characters to be super busted compared to the rest of them. And the tournament people really look at is Combo Breaker 2022 because the character was banned at CEO 2022. And 7 out of the 8 players in top 8 all use Labcoat 21. So this means that's more than the Evil Japan Leroy incident, where 6 out of the 8 players used Leroy top 8, including the winner, GT Goku from the same game, where I looked through a bunch of tournaments from the Dragon Ball FighterZ Season 2 World Tour, and the most I could find was generally 5 to 6 GT Goku players in multiple top 8s, and he got way more time available, so he was playable for like a year before they nerfed him. where lab coat didn't really have as much time. And an oldie but a goodie, the Apex tournament where there were 5 Meta Knights in Brawl top 8. Now, these are all really high numbers, and hearing that Lab Coat 21 had 7 out of 8 would be like, man, this character's at another level. But there's a little extra point about the game itself, because it is a team game, so it is both a team game and it's Dragon Ball Fighters, and when people think a character is an easy answer, they will definitely switch to it, as seen with UI Goku being hyper represented during the Dragon Ball Fighters 2020 National Championships across all regions, and GT Goku, like I mentioned, who had repeated appearances at 5 or 6 players playing the character in top 8s at a world-class level. And if you're talking about character overrepresentation, it seems that 5 to 6 is definitely the line where people are like, dude, what is going on? So of course her having 7 is crazy, but then again, it's also that game. Could probably be its own video, to be honest. But anyway, it wasn't just how good people thought she was and how many people were playing her, but specifically her character concept. So every one of the high-powered DLC characters in Dragon Ball Fighters had a unique thing about them that characters didn't have. So GT Goku had super high damage solo and really good mix-up solo that while other characters had that taken away from them. Then you have, of course, Bardock, who is just way faster than people, easy access and mix-up, great level 3, at a time where, again, not many characters had these things. Bardock specifically was so ridiculous that they gave his main special move to almost every single character in the game, if you want to know how ridiculous he was when the game came out. UI Goku, of course, with his many defensive options. While these are all good, Labcoat 21 was a little special. She has super that reduces the opponent's damage by 21% until they die for the rest of the game. So that's right, permanently. In a game where grand finals with a reset could already take 50 plus minutes, we're talking about like Smash Ultimate levels of time. A super that slows the game down even more also hurts the tournament in general. So it's like she breaks the fourth wall also. So these two things together put her on a temporary ban list until they ended up patching the game. And again, even though many people have discussed Android 21's power, they usually just talk about like what she does and not how the whole game has gone, or like really looked at other cases of different characters. So I really wanted to mention these things while talking about temporary bans. And then last but not least, the summit of Mount Olympus, the hard ban characters. Now, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. These are characters that are just banned. No time limit, no soft ban, no one state, not the other. You just cannot play them. The OG, of course, is Street Fighter 2 Akuma. I mean, he's so OG that I used him in the thumbnail for my last banned video on ban tactics. He's a single character that like people were just not designed to deal with. This is another character too that's always mentioned in banned characters and fighting game videos. So instead of just harping on about how he had air fireball and good damage, instead, there's something I thought about while I was looking at people playing him and looking at the character's design. Is it not interesting that Street Fighter 2 Akuma was so broken that each Street Fighter game from then on has a mechanic to help you fight what he does? You think about it? And what I'm talking about, by the way, is just air fireball. So for example, you have Third Strike. Third Strike lets you parry on the ground and in the air. You could parry projectiles, aka you could fight Akuma. Or Street Fighter 4, you can tank an attack with focus attack, which means you could tank an air fireball. In Street Fighter 5, there's far more projectile invincible things than ever before in a Street Fighter game. In Street Fighter 6, you get parried back, I guess. But that kind of shows you how much impact that type of things have. Maybe it's coincidence, maybe I'm being conspiracy LK, but just think about it. Open your third eye a little bit for this one. Another commonly referenced one is Pet Shop from JoJo's, and usually when you look at these type of videos, they'll talk about Pet Shop. People found out Pet Shop was really stupid really quickly, and then they'll mention that Kakuin, I hope I said that correctly, was a character that he took a very long time, I mean a very long time to develop, like more than a decade to develop, but eventually people banned him as well. It actually reminds me of H&K. Hokuto no Ken is a pretty broken game. Like the game is, honestly, it's just broken, so like there's no banned characters. But I just think about the dichotomy between like Pet Shop and Kakuin and Toki and Rei, where Toki was like immediately people knew Toki was super broken, was way better than everybody. And then as the game developed, they're like, oh wow, like Rei is actually really crazy too and kind of like is at the same level. Sometimes it's just like nice to look at these things from a macro level. Or another way you could put it is that if Toki and Rei were in different games, they would be banned. Up to you. To wrap up though, I wanted to pick a character that doesn't really get talked about. Depending on what you're looking at, some people I will reference really obscure fighters like the Power Rangers fighter and Ivan Ooze and things like that. That video is cool. Like, I remember that being shared around when I was starting fighting games as well. So I wanted to pick a nice intersection between like cool people talk about and a game that I would like to see like remade or re-released or modernized or something. Maybe someone is gonna give me the side eye for wanting like a modern version of this game. But Sailor Moon S. We're gonna talk about Sailor Uranus. So for my research, Sailor Uranus is banned from all tournaments, I'm pretty sure. And the main thing is that she has a dash that's instant, so by my words, teleport, that is mostly invincible / invincible, goes full screen. And if you're player 2, it's completely invincible on wake up. So you have a player side advantage, which is not that common. And I made a video about this actually a while back. So this is another example of that, which when it's player side specific stuff, it is really funky. And then she has an easy infinite combo that works on everybody as well. So the combination of mostly invincible dash that goes full screen, that's also reversal, and an easy infinite means all you're doing is going for this infinite. It's like old Sagat logic that we talked about before, but she invalidates basically everybody. And then in the mirror, there's still a version that's better, right? Because the player 2 version is better than player 1. So she stands head and shoulders above the rest of the cast. Literally, I think, maybe as a Sailor Scout, and then also in her character power, unlike Old Sagat, who has Pierce. But yeah, that's my look at banned characters in fighting games. So I really wanted to have this different angle because this is definitely one of those fighting game YouTube fighting game videos, but I really like talking about characters. Characters make fighting games for me. An ideal fighting game for me is like you use the character to interact with the system, not the other way around, if that makes sense. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.